What if Nico Collins had a new partner in crime, and that guy was Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the soon-to-be free agent? Would he fit with the Houston Texans? Let's find out. Powered by my friends at BetUS. Let's talk about the player, the price to go get a guy like Chris Godwin, and ultimately give you the verdict, the thumbs up or the thumbs down on if the Texans should be pursuing a player like Godwin in free agency. Let's start with the player. Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He'll be 29 this year. His birthday is in just a couple of weeks, and he was awesome last year. He was incredible. He was red hot to get the season started. 50 catches in 7 games for 576 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. And again, he only played in those 7 games due to a season-ending ankle injury that he suffered, but he was on his way to the best season of his career. Now, Godwin, he's been with Tampa his entire career, and he's been Mr. Consistency. Easily over 1,000 yards, it feels like, every single year as the running mate to Mike Evans. He can play inside, he can play outside. Primarily was used inside last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, kind of a 2-to-1 ratio of inside to outside. But when you start to think about Chris Godwin and how he fits, well, he's already been Robin to Batman. Mike Evans has been the guy in Tampa Bay for a long time, and Godwin fit in seamlessly into that number 2 role with Evans and played off of him well, and still got plenty that he could be excited about. No grumbling about catches and touches and receptions and yards and touchdowns. There was plenty to go around in Tampa Bay. There'd be plenty to go around in H-Town if Chris Godwin was on the Texans. It would be a pretty easy fit to see how Godwin works on this offense. You put him in the slot, you play him outside sometimes. You'd have to maybe go find a different outside wide receiver because you're primarily going to play Godwin in the slot. But even then, that guy can ease into the role because Godwin can play outside. And who do we know that is familiar with mixing and matching and moving guys around at the wide receiver position? Oh, how about new offensive coordinator Nick Caley stealing some of that from Sean McVay? So the fit is nothing to worry about if the Texans were able to get Chris Godwin. You should be really excited if they're able to get a player like him. I know he had the season-ending ankle injury. That's not an ACL, an MCL, a PCL, or any of the CLs that are in there. It's not some sort of major knee injury that you got to come back. Once the ankle's good, you get out there, you test it out a little bit, bing, bang, boom, he's ready to go. He'd be there for most, if not all, of the offseason activities as well. That's another element to think about when you think about a player who is dealing with an injury is, hey, is he going to be there for all of the offseason stuff? And indeed, Godwin would be there. So, can the Texans get Chris Godwin? We'll talk about the price here in just a moment. I want to remind you, it might be the offseason, but there's still wagering to be done over at BetUS. BetUS with the code YouTube150 going to get you a 150% bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit. You can already get in on conference winner bets, MVP bets. I mean, look at these conference winner odds. The Ravens and the Chiefs tied at the top with the Bills right behind them. That makes sense, but should the Bengals really be ahead of the Texans? Bengals 9-1, Texans 12-1. I don't know that I'm totally buying that from the Bengals being ahead of the Texans. They got a tough division in the AFC North. The team at the top of the board for odds, the Baltimore Ravens, is in the Bengals division. Let's check out where the Jaguars are way down here. Let's check out where the Tennessee Titans are way down here. The Indianapolis Colts way down here. That's who the Texans play in their division. If you want to get in early, you feel like a little sprinkle to get ahead of things, odds are in your favor right now over at BetUS, so check it out. Let's talk about the price to go and get Chris Godwin. How difficult would it be to sign a player like Godwin? He's coming off of $20 million a year over a 3-year deal, so $60 million over 3 years, that's pretty pricey, and he's still really good. And I have to imagine he's not settling for anything less than $20 million. Now, I know the Buccaneers are going to try like hell to keep him, and they should. They got some other young guys, and if the price gets too expensive for Tampa and they don't want to pay him more than Mike Evans, who's making a little over $20 million a year, then maybe Godwin is out there and he's searching and he's looking. But if I was Chris Godwin, I'm not taking a penny less than Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is Mr. Inconsistency, hasn't been consistent since he was really good back in his Falcons days, and he makes a lot of money, okay? Over $22 million a year, and I got to imagine that Godwin's checking in and looking for at least $23 million per year. Now, can the Texans do that? And the short answer is yes, but how do you get there? You got to restructure some contracts. You got to convert some contracts, and that's probably your big spend. And if you want a veteran on the offensive line, well, a notable veteran probably can't come with Chris Godwin also getting signed in free agency. It also limits some of the key depth players that you may need to go get over on defense. You think about this. The Texans need backups at linebacker. They need backups at cornerback. They need backups at safety. They need starters at defensive tackle. All those players drop down in levels if you make a big investment to a guy like Chris Godwin. You could be a shorter term investment so you're not spending a lot of money into his 30s. So you get him for the age 29, 30, 31 season. It's 23 and a half million bucks a year. Good portion of that, I guess, would be guaranteed. It wouldn't be too restrictive, but you got to think. Paying Derek Stingley, paying Will Anderson eventually, paying CJ Stroud eventually gets a little tight. And on the margins there, you might be losing out on a good player for an okay player or a lottery ticket because you spent and invested so much. But Texans do need help at the wide receiver spot. What ultimately is the verdict here on Chris Godwin? I'm going Roman Emperor, thumbs down on Chris Godwin. Just too much that you have to go and get elsewhere. And Godwin's expensive. Nico Collins is already paid. Go get him somebody that he can grow with over these next couple of seasons. Go get somebody maybe in the draft in the first or second round, or someone who has a little bit lower price tag associated with them. Even though the production's not going to be to the same level as Godwin, you've got Nico Collins as the top guy. He needs more than just one partner in crime. He needs a lot of help in that wide receiver room and from the pass catchers. So you've got to be able to think about it from that standpoint if you're the Texans. So thumbs down for me on Chris Godwin. Just a little too pricey. If there was one less bad contract on the Texans, like if Dalton Schultz wasn't on this team, or if Titus Howard wasn't signed to that big contract, or if Shaq Mason's contract didn't eat up a bunch of space, then maybe I'd say yes to Chris Godwin. But it just gets a little tight in the wallet when you start to think about getting Godwin into the mix. What say you? You disagree with me? Spend the money, go get Chris Godwin. Let me know in the comment section down below. When you're down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget SNL with myself and Landry Locker from the Locker Room, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m., live from the NFL Scouting Combine, starting not next week, but the week after that. So you don't want to miss out on that. There's plenty of off-season content coming your way. And don't forget to check out my friends at BetUS. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait till we talk Texans again soon.